Hello and welcome to the Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friend. If you've been looking for a podcast geared towards your growth, self-awareness, navigating your brain's daily mind drama, and deep inner work to become your highest and best self, you are in the perfect place. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I'm Macy Renee, and I am so happy that you joined us on today's episode. We are going to be talking about taking inventory of the people that surround you in your life to make sure that you're in a place where you know if those people are helping you become the version of yourself that you want to be, or if they are hindering you from becoming the person that you want to be. Before we get into that, there are two things I want to ask of you. The first thing is for some grace. If the sound quality for this episode and a few episodes to follow is janky, I apologize. I'm going to do my best to edit it to where you hopefully don't notice. But my mic broke this week on Monday when I was actually going to record a podcast episode for you guys. And they are sending me a replacement, but they can't do so until they receive my janky one. So I mailed off my janky one, and I'm waiting for them to send me a replacement. So if the sound quality isn't as good as it normally is, just give me a pass for the next few weeks, okay? The second thing that I want to ask of you is if you are a fan of the podcast, if you love the work that I'm putting out into the world, if I have coached you before, or you've attended a coaching class, even if it's free, if in some way you've been touched by what you've learned from Macy Renee Coaching, I want you to take a moment and please pause this after I say this. Go to the link in the show notes and leave me a review on Google. It really helps it helps more people find me. It helps more people learn who I am. And I would really appreciate it if you are a consumer of my work, if you could just take 30 to 60 seconds and share how my work in the world has changed your life in some way, or impacted you in some way, or how you've learned something new that maybe you didn't know before. So you could just be honest, like if we haven't worked together one-on-one, or you've never paid for coaching, that's okay. Just put in the Google review, maybe that you listen to Becoming Your Highest Self podcast, or Macy's podcast, like however you want to say it. I trust that it's going to come off beautifully. Don't overthink it, but it would really, really mean a ton to me. So if you could just pause this right now, go to the link in the show notes and leave a Google review. Thank you in advance. I will just tell you that as an entrepreneur, it can be so hard to get yourself out there and have more people find you. But whenever you all are willing to do little things like that, it's something that takes a very little amount of time and can have massive impact. And so I appreciate each and every one of you in advance for being willing to do that. I really do appreciate it. So let's talk about taking inventory of the people that surround you in your life. So you've probably heard the famous quote by Jim Rohn, "You're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And this is definitely something that's important to be aware of, okay? Because as humans, we're drawn to people who are a lot like us. We love being around people. We like coexisting with people, but a lot of times it's with people who are just like us, okay? Now for my people who are a little more introverted and like being alone, I see you. I am definitely you, right? I love my alone time. I'm not one to be disappointed if I'm spending some time alone. I am that weird person that will go to a restaurant alone and enjoy my time sitting there. I don't feel sorry for myself. I don't care if people are staring at me and feeling sorry for me. I actually take that time very preciously, okay? Because I do like spending time alone. However, it's a part of our human nature to want to coexist with people who make us feel really good. And a lot of times what that looks like is being around people who have a lot of similarities to us. So when I first heard this quote when I was probably in high school, "You're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with," I looked around and I realized like that was pretty true for my best friends and I. We had things that made us different, but for the most part, we were very similar in a lot of ways. And I saw that with even groups of people in high school, right? If you were a party animal, you hung out with the party animals. If you were studious and kind of a bookworm, you hung out with other studious bookworm type of people. If someone in your friend group smoked, the likelihood was that everybody smoked, whether it was marijuana or cigarettes, it didn't matter. If you were drinking, then the fact of the matter is that a lot of times your friends were drinking. Like, we usually gravitate towards people who are a lot like us, who have common interest and who make us feel not so alone in what we're doing. And then this crazy thing happens whenever you're getting older and you're kind of coming into your own and you're learning who you are. And maybe you're starting a family or you go, off in the military, whatever you do, you kind of break off from maybe what you've always known and maybe some of the friends you've always had. And as you grow and change and evolve a little bit, so does your friend group. Now, I know for me, I don't get to see my best friends, like my childhood best friends, every day, every month, sometimes even every year. I'm lucky to see them once a year. And sometimes for a lot of my best friends, actually, it's been longer than that, especially since moving to Las Vegas. But I know that if we called each other up and we said, hey, we really need to get together, let's make it happen, let's go for lunch or dinner somewhere, we'd be able to pick up right where we left off. And the likelihood is that we'd catch up, we'd say like, how's your family? How's your sister? How's your brother? How's things going? How are your kids? Like, do you remember when? And we'd go down the rabbit hole of all the childhood memories. Okay. And so those experiences and those friendships are very, very precious. But here's what I want to make you aware of is that, especially, you all listen to this podcast, right? Maybe you've been listening for a while. Some of you have hired me and we work together, whether in the Equipped Society or one-on-one. And what is natural is that as you become more and more self-aware, you start to grow. And when you start to grow, your energy kind of shifts a little bit, okay? And sometimes that can be felt with the people who've spent the most time around you over the years. And sometimes it can cause a little bit of tension because they can feel that something is different about you, but they don't know exactly what it is. They can't quite put their finger on why it's feeling a little bit different. Now, this is not a bad thing, but here's what I want to make you aware of. When you are in a place of growth and other people that maybe you've spent the most time with are not, it can feel very normal to almost feel like they're dragging you down, or they're not happy for you, or they don't understand, or that you're on different pages. And this isn't like you're above them and they're below, or vice versa, right? This is about being aware of sometimes the tension that you can feel whenever you're growing and evolving and changing. And it's also to make you aware of taking inventory of how you feel around your different friend groups as you're stepping in to the person you want to become. Okay? Because I will tell you that the friends that you came here with, right, may not be the friends that are going to get you to the levels at which you want to go. Now, I know that this can feel a little daunting and scary because you're probably like, oh my God, but I love my friends. My friends are my people. I absolutely love them. And I get it because I love my friends too. Like I said, we could pick up right where we left off. But there is a different kind of experience that happens sometimes when you're working on yourself, because you start to see things in a different manner. You start to think about who you're becoming and what that looks like. And so sometimes you fall out of those common interest with the people that you used to coexist with very, very well, okay? And so what I want you to be aware of is taking inventory of the way that you feel around certain groups of people. So sometimes as you're growing and maybe you get around your family, where it used to feel really, really good to be around your family because you all were exactly alike or a lot alike, they might start to feel shifts in you. You feel shifts in you. And then they might start trying to bring you down unintentionally. Like, I don't recognize this version of you. I don't know who you're becoming. Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you acting this way all of a sudden? Or why do you act like you're above everybody else or better than everybody else? And I want to make you aware that sometimes the way that they're saying it, it will come across, it will feel maybe as if it's an insult, but sometimes they are not able to communicate exactly what's happening. And so you have to be very curious with even the words that people are saying. Like, I don't understand, why have you changed, or why don't you want to hang out anymore? Why are you being like this? And what they're communicating is, I feel a difference. Like, it used to feel very easy. We used to be on the same wavelength. And now that feels like there's a little bit of a hiccup in the way that we coexist with each other. And I'm trying to figure out like what's gone wrong. Okay. And so what you have to take inventory of is like, how do you feel around the people you're spending the most time with? And are they helping you step into the version of yourself that you want to be? Or are they keeping you in that place where it's comfort, it's what's known, it's what's familiar? Okay. Because as you are expanding and growing, people are going to feel it more and more. You're going to feel it more and more. So, for instance, although I have my childhood best friends and I love them, the likelihood is that if we were to get together now, right, with the growth that I've had, and even the growth that maybe each of them have had, but in different ways, like being parents and all of that, we're not going to have all the same common interest anymore. Okay. So what will naturally occur is probably going to a lot of the past in order to coexist on the same level that we used to be able to, because we're such different versions of ourselves now. My best friends, some of them are moms. They have like different things going on in their careers. I have gone a different route in my career. I'm not a mom yet. And so none of it is bad. I really want to make you aware of that. None of the changes are bad. It's just different. And so if I were to go back to that friend group, it would likely be us reminiscing on the past and just things that feel familiar in order to connect the way that we always did. We'd have to kind of go into past conversations, okay? Now, I have a different set of friend group for the places I'm wanting to go, okay? So for instance, I think of the friends that I've made in my life coach training school with the classmates that I had going through that experience. It's like our conversations are so much different. Like, there's just so different than other conversations with other friend groups. Like in other friend groups, it's like, how is your mom? How's your sister? How's everything going? And then with this friend group, it would be like, so we're all crossing the 100K stage next year, right? Like we're going to be on the millionaire stage one day, right? And our conversations are just so different. It's where we're wanting to go. Now we will talk and get to know each other about our families and, our significant others and different things like that. But usually the conversation is very rich in our future selves and where we're trying to go, and anything that is keeping us from believing we can be that person right now. Those friends of mine, those friends will catch that BS and help lift me to the place I'm trying to go. Whereas if I tried to have that same conversation with the people that I've felt most comfortable with my entire life, if their life is not also going in that direction, if that's not something that they're interested in, the conversations are going to be very stagnant in the sense of like, it's not expanding me to the place that I want to go. And in some situations, whenever you're trying to be the next best version of yourself, whatever that means, it doesn't have to mean you're, often being an entrepreneur, or you're going to go be this super successful person. It just means that you're wanting to be better. And that can mean not wanting to complain all the time. Like maybe you've been in a situation where you used to complain all the time, and you have friends that you could complain with all the time. So you'd go to your friends and they're used to you complaining, you're used to them complaining, and the way that you all spent your time was constantly complaining. Okay? And then you start listening to a podcast, maybe this one to be exact, and you start learning that certain thoughts and emotions are not serving you for your highest and greatest good. They're not going to help you get where you want to be. And you realize maybe like, oh my gosh, complaining is not going to serve me anymore. Like, it's just not going to be helpful. So I'm going to try and do a good job of not actively complaining. And then you go to this friend group that's used to you being a complainer and they're used to complaining to you. And it no longer feels as good to spend the majority of your time with them because you have a new profound awareness where you're like, okay, complaining's not serving me. But every time I'm with them, all they do is complain. But that's because that's who you used to be as well. And so whenever you're like, oh, let's talk about something else, like where we want to be a year from now, maybe your friends might look at you like you're crazy because they're like, what do you mean? Talk about where you want to be a year from now. Like, we're complaining about our boss. We're complaining about work. We're complaining about being tired. We're complaining about, how our significant other doesn't take us out on dates or help as much as they need to with the kids or whatever. And you might start to feel that energetic tension of like, oh gosh, we're on different wavelengths. This is not working for me. It's not helping me become the best version of myself, which is the version of me that doesn't just spend all day complaining about things. I don't want to be this person. So, what I mean is, you have to take inventory of that and be willing to find the people that push you closer to where you want to be. Okay. Spending more time with people that are going the places you want to go. And so I've been very adamant about that in probably the last 7 or 8 years. It started kind of with my relationship marketing adventure whenever I was in college. Um, I realized that in order to be successful, that I was going to have to change my mindset a lot, and I was going to have to hang around people that didn't feel threatened by another person's success. So that's another big one too, right? Like maybe you are wanting to take a promotion and you're going to be going from, I don't know, let's say $40,000 a year to $80,000 a year. But your friends or, family members, maybe they all make what you used to make, $40,000 a year. And you trying to talk to them about your $80,000 a year success and where you want to go and how you want your career to look, they might not be able to hold space for you because that's not their experience. And if they don't have the emotional intelligence to be able to hold the space for you without feeling threatened about their own experiences, then it may be very hard for you to have conversations that are going to push you into growth. I know that this is another thing that has happened to me, right? Like whenever I talk about walking across the stage and grabbing a $100,000 a year or more award, there are certain groups I cannot have that conversation with without them maybe feeling like they're small, right? Or that I'm bragging, or that it feels threatening, or that it's going to take something away from them, right? There's people that aren't always able to hold space for that because they start having thoughts about themselves. And if they're not managing their mind because they don't know how and they don't know how to manage their emotions, they will not be able to support you and cheer you on maybe the way that you desire to be cheered on. So if that's where you're trying to go, you have to find the people who are also going that way, or they have already been there. So that way, when you want to have these conversations, instead of feeling dragged down or bogged down or like someone can't be happy for you, you go to the people that you know are going to help hold you up to that level of success that you're wanting. So we really are the sum of the 5 people we hang around most. And so you have to take inventory of the way that you're feeling around these different people you're hanging out with. If you're trying to stop drinking, but you're around friends that drink all the time and that have no compassion or understanding for your sobriety, it's going to be very important for you to get around people who are either also sober, right, and practicing sobriety and able to help lift you up on those hard days, or hang around people who just don't care to drink that much at all or ever. And be around the people who are going to cheer you on and know, like, you're going to go over to their house and instead of offering you a glass of wine, they're going to offer you like a tonic water, or you know what I mean, like a San Pellegrino or something like that, and not force you or shame you or make you feel bad for your decision. Same thing with smoking. Like if you don't want to smoke anymore, you're like, listen, I'm going to try and, change my health a little bit. I want to eat better, or I want to stop smoking, or I want to lose, 20 pounds. if you hang out with the people you've always hung out with, they might not understand that if they're not in a place of wanting to change that for themselves. And so, even though you desire for them to feel happy for you, and maybe they do want to try, what oftentimes happens is that you'll catch a lot of shit, right? For changing or wanting to change something, like especially when it comes to the way that maybe you all socialize. Like if you don't want to party anymore, you want to spend your time doing something else other than partying, you might get a lot of pushback from the people who've known you as the party animal your entire life. And so, if you truly don't want that anymore, you have to take inventory of how you're feeling around them. And if you don't feel like it's helping you get where you want to be, you have to insert yourself into groups of people that understand where you're trying to go and will help lift you there. And sometimes that is why being in a coaching container, like a group coaching program, can be so powerful, because everybody is in there working towards a common goal. Like for me, for instance, like the people in my group are all working towards improving their emotional intelligence. And so where they're at in their current, like wherever they are currently in their life may all be different, but the group works well because all of them are working on a common goal. And so maybe they can't rely on their family and friends to support them in growing their emotional intelligence, but they can lean on me as their coach. They can lean on the other people that are in that group coaching program to know that they're going to be supported in becoming their highest self and becoming their best self. And so if you can't find that in a group of friends at this time, sometimes just inserting yourself into maybe a program or a book club, or just some like a group that has people all going towards things that you want to go for, like inserting yourself in the room even when you don't feel ready. And that's another thing, right? Is that sometimes you won't feel ready because maybe whenever you set a goal for yourself, you'll think, oh, but I'm not here yet. And I feel very alone because I don't know if anybody will accept me because I haven't achieved the goal yet. So, for instance, this would be like if I was afraid to hang around people who are millionaires because I'm not a millionaire. Like if I let millionaires intimidate me because I'm not one of them. And I haven't even, like I've told you guys in full transparency, I'm still working on hitting $100,000 per year in my business. So if I wanted to, I could allow my brain to shrink me and feel not worthy of hanging around millionaires because I'm not there. I could make myself feel less than. But what I know is most important for me is staying very close to the people who are millionaires, because their level of thinking is so different than my own, especially at this time, right? I'm not there yet. And so, whatever I'm absorbing, being in their space and their energy, how they think, how they act, how they handle problems, how they handle stress, like those things are very important for me to be around. And so, inserting myself in a group before I'm ready and being willing to, even show up at that level before I've hit that level is really, really important. So, if there are people that you're watching that have something you want, you have to be willing to surround yourself with it right now. You need to get really close to those people, as close as they'll let you get, right? Respect their boundaries, but get as close as you can get and be like, I want to learn from you. I want to figure out what it is that I may be missing in my thinking, in my emotional well-being. Like I want to figure out the missing link and start observing them. And see, what happens a lot of times is that when people are at a level that we're not yet, and maybe we want to get there, we totally take ourselves out with shame and feeling less than or insignificant. And we remove ourselves from them because we're so afraid of feeling the emotions that will come with trying to step into that version of ourselves. And so the most powerful thing that you can do is, instead of pulling away and making yourself feel less than and maybe judging them for, being where they're at and and having a lot of mind drama, instead of doing that, be willing to like ride their coattails a little bit, not literally, but figuratively be willing to like learn from the people that maybe feel intimidating to you, or maybe feel way out of reach. Because if that's where you're trying to go, instead of being like, I can't stand them, there's something about them I don't like, there could be a lot that you can learn from them. And if you feel triggered by them, but at the same time you want something that they have, just lean into that trigger and try to figure out, like, what is it that makes me so triggered? Is it the fact that I do desire, like maybe I desire being able to speak the way that they speak, like in a public speaking platform. Maybe I desire to be able to communicate effectively the way that they're able to communicate. And instead of, letting it mean you're less than, or allowing yourself to have a ton of mind drama around it, put yourself in their energy and learn from them if those are skills and qualities that you desire to have. Don't take yourself out of the game because you're feeling less than or intimidated. Like, be willing to powerfully place yourself in groups that sometimes feel a little bit scary so that you can grow. And sometimes that's the case with like coaching containers, is that we feel really afraid because we're like, oh God, what if I'm not like everybody else? What if they're way ahead of me in their journey? What if they think that I'm, not cool, or not this great person? Like, oh God, I probably shouldn't be in that group. But if you desire to have qualities of that group, the best thing that you can do for yourself is get in. Okay, get in and learn from the people who are a few steps ahead of you, or who are a lot of steps ahead of you. Okay, get really close to them. So that's what I want you to take note of. Take inventory of the people you're hanging around. Do you feel really good with them? Do you not feel really good with them? Do they support where you're trying to go, or do they tear you down with their words, with their actions? Do they make you excited about where you're going in your future, or do they try to keep you safe and comfortable because that's all that they know at this time? Like, you have just as much influence to influence maybe who they become by who you're willing to become. Now, maybe they won't change. Maybe they'll be exactly who they've always been. But for the most part, like, we can influence people and inspire people by the work that we're doing on ourselves. And you never know how the way that you're changing might impact somebody else who ends up looking to you as an inspiration for getting them out of a situation they've been comfortable in for years. Okay. So that is today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. And again, if you haven't already, please, 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 please go to the show notes, click the link to leave me a review on Google. If you have loved the podcast, if you've attended any free masterclasses, if you've worked with me in the past through coaching, if you're working with me currently, I would really appreciate it if you would just take 30 to 60 seconds and go and leave a review sharing what has helped you. Has it been a certain podcast episode? Has it been the podcast overall? Has it been a certain program that I've done? Has it been something you heard me say when I coached you? Like, whatever it is, just be honest in the review and share how the work that I'm putting out in the world is helping you. And I just so appreciate you all in advance for taking the time to do that. Thank you, and we will talk again next week. Have an amazing week, you guys. I'll talk to you soon.